From the new recording lair located deep beneath the Wine and Spirit store in Ephrata, Pennsylvania.
You're listening to the Masonic Light Podcast.
Studio 665 presents Masonic Light Podcast. This show is recorded by Masons, for Masons. It is for entertainment purposes only. And please, no wagering.
This podcast is not endorsed by any Grand Lodge, and the ridiculous ramblings of the hosts are their own. And now, here's your host.
Hello, everybody.
Hello again.
Hi. Take two. This is the Masonic Light Podcast.
This is the Masonic Do-Over Podcast.
Yeah. At least we had problems early in the show.
Yes.
So we're back. Episode number 176.
Six.
170 and 76.
That's a lot of episodes.
That is a lot of episodes. So we have a full studio tonight. We have our guest host of Next to Last Resort, Brother Ricky Martini.
Very next to last.
It says Larry Merris right there on the thing.
It says Larry Merris.
Well,
yeah.
you know, I cannot substitute this.
You don't want to put your feet in those shoes.
No.
You've been working out, Larry.
Yeah. So Larry's on his way back from a field trip to Florida, literally to a farm in Florida.
To a field.
With his daughter and family, and so we're glad he's having a good time and hope he gets back safe. Jack is here.
Ta-da.
Josh is here.
Yeah.
And tonight's guest is Brother Brian T. Mattocks.
Hi, how are you? Thanks
Hello,
for having
Brian.
me.
Good to have you with us. We'll tell you a little bit more about Brian as we go on. But
Speak for yourself. What?
yes, tonight's episode, as all of our episodes are, brought to you by George J. Grove and Sons.
And Sons.
So
Hiram Solomon Cigars.
Yes, they are.
You're going to love this one. Intermezzo by Stephanie.
Oh, her chocolates.
I do, in fact, love that one.
I knew you did.
Oh, by the way, just as an aside,
Okay.
Josh,
yeah,
and don't take this the wrong way, but you are my wife's favorite character on this show.
oh good.
Yeah, she's just because she loves the way you just slide these like little snide things in underneath, and she thinks it's hilarious.
Oh good.
You have a fan.
Wonderful.
You'll only sell one T-shirt, but you have a fan.
My only thing.
It'll be a really expensive T-shirt.
It'll be a fundraiser. There you go.
Exactly. Our other sponsors, Scott Helm Electric,
Yes,
we think.
I believe it's actually Helm Construction, but I'm not sure.
Oh,
But it could be.
did he change his name?
No, the Helm Construction is his son. They do
Okay.
roofing and siding and things like that.
We should probably reach out to Brother Scott because
We should.
rumors of his demise have been.
Let's put up a
Yeah.
personal Masonic Light Podcast challenge. Scott, hey, give us a shout.
Yeah,
We'd love
we
to
know
hear
you're
from you.
listening to the show.
Do we?
Well, we hope he is. Kind of, sort of. Our newest sponsor, Two Pillars Apparel.
Nice.
I said that really quickly. And
You did.
Did
You
it well. And most importantly, our patrons on Patreon.
Yes. Of which I am reinstated.
Yes, welcome back to the fold.
I can honestly wear the happy hat now.
Welcome back
I
to
had
the
a credit
fold.
card stolen, and I had to have it canceled, and it turned me off of. It disconnected me from Patreon.
Yeah,
So.
which is
Hello.
Hello. Do we have an incoming text message from Harry? Usually it's his phone that goes off.
No, that's a new Patreon. Every
That's
time
a new every time
every
a bell
time an
rings.
angel gets his wings, Patreon goes off.
But we love our patrons on Patreon.
And it's so hard. Why did they do that to us?
I know it. And you too can be a Patreon
How can you do that, Tim? Tell
for
us.
as little as $1 a month.
$1 freaking dollar.
Just
$1.
$1.
Just sign up. $1. Come on, guys.
$1, and unless your credit card gets turned off, you will continue to get great episodes like this. Help to support it,
And no significant bling or bonuses.
No.
So it's
no,
just because you're awesome and
Right.
we love you.
we do. We love you long time. Great. So as we normally begin our podcasts, we talk about what's been going on Masonically since our last episode. And tonight we're going to begin with Jack Harley.
Ooh.
I ask you,
You know
what have you been doing?
that I've
do
been
know.
doing something very cool.
I do. That's why I'm coming to you first.
I would like to thank Nicholas Lane and his crew in Hamilton, Ontario, District A, for putting on the first Masonic Con in that district, or maybe even in Canada. I'm not sure. I think in Canada. But they planned it down to the second. They kept on schedule. We got out 5 minutes early. But I was speaker number 6 of 7, and 7 was the Grand Master. So it was an honor to be there. They took wonderful care of me. We raised. They had after the event. There was another event called Hops for Hospice.
Ooh.
And the district raised $37,000 in one night at Hops for Hospice. Now that's Canadian dollars, so factor
That's
in
still
fake money.
Pretty good.
Honestly,
It's like $14.50 here.
it's $1.95. It's no, but they did a tremendous job. It was a great time, but it was super simple. They and not to go too deep into this, but they did it at the Legion. They had music. It was barbecue, like smoked brisket and chicken barbecue and stuff. I mean, it wasn't an over the top, like gala event. They raised $37,000.
But you say hops for hospice, and I think you're just going to get a bunch of sick people drunk. Is that the plan?
Well, it may have happened, but I don't think that was the plan. But it was. But anyway, the whole thing, the Masonic Con was awesome. I was honored to be invited to speak, and the subject was enlightenment, open-ended on both sides.
Don't undersell the invite. Prior to the Grand Master, you were the keynote speaker.
Well, that's fine. That was a logistical issue.
The Grand Master is always
Nobody speaks after the Grand
understood,
Master. Yeah.
but next to him, you were the keynote.
No. He was very gracious, and it was wonderful. And there was a lot of good information exchanged, and probably a couple guests will come from that.
Awesome.
From that event. So, yeah, that was what I've been doing.
True.
What have you been doing, Timmy?
Well, I was trying to see if it was possible that for 2 solid weeks I could do something Masonic every day.
You must accomplish that.
You were trying to do that?
Well,
I
not
try to
really.
not do that.
I'm
Well-
sure he did it.
I really was not trying to do it, but it so happened that I missed it by 1 day.
Oh.
13 of 14 days, something was going on, and I'm like, why am I so tired? And it's like,
You got a lot of wires in the iron.
way too many wires. So the Grand Council of Royal and Select
What does
Masons
that even mean?
of Pennsylvania was held in Harrisburg, and I was honored on the 28th of April. I had to think what month we were in. I was honored to receive the Order of the Silver Trowel, which is conferred upon those who have been installed as thrice illustrious masters of their council.
Chairman of the Breakfast Bar.
Yeah. Which now entitles me to attend the Council of Anointed Kings. Oh, man. Once a year. They meet 1 day a year for about 90 minutes.
Was that the anointing?
And they're only the only thing they do is they confer this degree on the new guys coming in.
Are you the point within the circle?
Yeah, exactly. On the 28th.
You have to wear a raincoat?
Yeah, right.
All right.
On the 28th, I attended Ubar Grotto.
Huzzah.
Jack was on vacation.
I was.
Larry was on vacation.
He was.
Josh was across the river.
Laughing hysterically.
And we tried to get him over there.
Actually, I was on that side of the river.
What? And you didn't come to Ubar?
I was actually up by Eureka
Oh, okay.
during that time. Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Very good. Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So that road does go both ways.
It
then.
does go
okay,
both
okay.
ways.
Just
Yeah.
checking.
Josh has his passport, so he can cross that bridge.
That's all right.
On the 29th and 30th, I was out in Pittsburgh meeting with some lodges. That'll go unnamed, but I'm happy to report that
Beating them with the audit stick?
most of them have their
audits are done
now. Really would love to see that job end quickly. There's still a handful of them out there. On the 30th, Zimbo Past Masters Club met. That was a nice dinner, and had a nice little program. On the 1st of May, I attended the banquet of Lowther Manor Lodge number 781.
Hey, we know those guys.
My good friend Milt Gauss is the secretary there, and he invited me to be his guest. Did not do anything on May the 2nd.
Wow.
Loafer, right?
I knew there was a disturbance in the force.
Exactly. On the 3rd, one of my favorite events the entire Masonic year is the spring/summer meeting of Lucius Securitas AMD Council.
Love my AMD.
Which is just freaking awesome. Yeah. So we come together at that meeting. It's usually held in either May or June, depending on when we can get this cabin that's like out in the middle of nowhere. And we have like amazing food. We have amazing cigars. We have amazing fellowship that goes up till like midnight.
Do we discuss Paracelsus at all?
Yeah. And actually, I gave the paper.
Yeah.
I gave the paper. I did.
Zigzags?
I did.
What?
Yeah, it was
What
an
was the paper?
overview of it was an overview of the various AMD degrees that are out there that councils can confer and so on. Because my council in particular had not really heard of a lot of them before. And so in seeking advice of whether they thought this would be an interesting paper, they all said, yeah, we don't know anything about any of those. So
Cool.
gave them some education on that.
Wow.
It was well received.
Enlightenment.
Enlightenment, indeed.
That costs extra.
Yeah. Well, believe me, with the amount of beverages and cigars we had, there was a lot of enlightenment going on. So, yeah. On the 4th, I attended the first regular meeting of Pilgrim Preceptors, which is an organization. There aren't many of them around. It is I'm going to screw this up. I think it's an Irish group. And in order to qualify for that, you have to have been a sitting master of a Blue Lodge and a past high priest. And so if you hold that distinction and you live near me, please contact me. And we are encouraged to, if someone is interested, talk to them about it and get them in. The dues aren't expensive. And
A sitting master of a
you
Blue
have
Lodge?
to have been.
Okay.
So a past master
Got it.
and a past high priest.
Got it.
And then later that day, May 4th, I attended the Big Valley of Harrisburg's Derby Party, which is always a fun event.
That was apparently a blast.
And it was a blast and an amazing horse race. If you saw the finish, it was equally as loud and fun as you saw on your TVs. And it was really great. So, Ricky Martini, I ask you, what have you been doing?
Well, I haven't left the state of Pennsylvania like some people, but
He left the country. What are you talking about? Twice since we saw him last.
But I was doing rehearsals last week with some degrees for Scottish Rite, getting ready for the spring reunion. Last week also I had our commandery meeting where I got installed as Captain General.
Ooh.
A big part.
Does that have like a lot of logos and you get medals and
You get a medal for your office. They're
Okay.
all different. The medals, some are pretty old.
Mhm.
So they just
hand down?
hand down,
Mhm.
which is pretty cool. And my sword still, it's not sharp. It's
Ooh.
not sharp. No.
Is that Larry's sword?
Probably
by any
okay.
chance?
It's Larry proof.
Okay, it's Larry.
The
proof.
It's Larry
Ubaratar?
proof.
We had to take the edge off the Ubaratar for Larry so he didn't hurt himself.
Yeah. Friday, I was invited as a guest to Tim, your AMD.
What'd you think?
Well, I was pretty excited.
Speakers and
And then the speaker got up and he was like, what the hell?
And then I'm driving down this dirt gravel road in the middle of the woods.
This is hilarious.
And I texted Tim something. I'm like, is something going to happen to me out here? I thought it was like some kind of like sick joke. like I was going to show up and like nobody be there. But finally the road ended and it was a fantastic cabin that they do rent out. And the food was great. The fellowship, the cigars, and your program was excellent. It was very educational to learn all the different AMD degrees.
I only talked about 9 of the more than 30.
We've started at my council. We've started doing read-throughs.
Good.
Read-through and discussion.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like that idea.
This week, Monday, I had my chapter meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We had
What chapter are you a member of?
Chapter Perseverance number 21 in Harrisburg.
Uh-huh.
We had the honor of having the most excellent Grand High Priest, Jason Craig, and his Grand Line officers.
Mm-hmm. Former guest?
I'm telling you, he's just a great person.
Good dude, yeah.
Good guy. Yep.
Really good person. We made everyone feel at home. He really pumps up the crowd, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And he literally gets out there and gives a little speech and goes, "What questions you guys got for me?" And everyone's just like,
Crickets.
we're supposed to ask him stuff? Is that okay? But the Grand Line, Eric even coming in after him, and it's very easy to talk with, very personable. There's no stress level at all dealing with any stuff. And then we talked about the SMART goals and what we're doing in our chapter to help rebuild it. And it's going in the direction that we want, which is great. We went downstairs afterwards and had some bourbon and ice cream pairing.
Nice.
That went very well. And the cherry ice cream did not go well with the bourbon.
No.
Did not.
No.
I tried, but
No.
My heart breaks for you.
Blackberries, yes.
so it's the
Cherries,
first time I actually stopped eating ice cream, and I just stuck with the bourbon.
no. That's always a wise choice.
Yeah, and yesterday I missed out on my Blue Lodge meeting.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it was Jack Probst, who was our former guest on the show here, was doing the Masonic Jeopardy again, and
That's fun.
yeah, I got stuck late at work, so I didn't get to keep my title, so I gave it up by default.
By default. All right.
It's always next time.
Yep. All right, Josh. Since you didn't come to Ubar Grotto,
Yeah, I missed.
even though you were on the other side of the river.
missed Grotto. Unfortunately, I really wanted to go, but I just did not make it in time. And Millersville Lodge number 476, they were doing the Rusty Nail degree last night, but I missed that too.
The Rusty Nail degree.
Oh, you've never seen the Rusty Nail degree?
I have not.
I can't believe people.
Yeah, it's
you
for
went
people.
somewhere yeah, go ahead.
People that like guys that haven't shown up in a while,
Ah.
and I missed it.
So you qualified for
Irony.
Right.
Is that like the Masons for Dummy book?
So yeah, I missed that, and that's it. I don't think I had anything else going on.
Are you coming to the Steffi Land Ranch for Ubar in June?
I hope to.
Oh,
There
is
you
that the
go.
June meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, can I fly there?
You can. You can.
Yes, you can.
Just be careful you don't get shot.
Okay.
Just saying. Brian, how about you? What have you been
Hello.
up to Masonic? Welcome to the show.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
What have you been up to Masonically recently?
Oh man, that you guys I think went through and defined all of the meetings you went to, and I'm a Mason between meetings. I do Masonic stuff every day, right?
Good.
So,
Nice.
I have Masons at the house. I have conversations with folk. But last Thursday was my stated at Cashew Mountain Horror Lodge number 273. And when I was there, we had a collective discussion. So our lodge meetings, we don't do like a presentation and then everybody kind of is like, hey, thanks for that. Mm-hmm. We do a full discussion every single meeting. And at the meeting, we talked about secrecy. So
We'll come back to that.
Oh, no.
Yes, we will.
So we had a good conversation about secrecy and what is the role of secrecy in the craft, not just in terms of ritual, but in terms of keeping a brother's secrets. You can't create a safe, vulnerable environment if you're not willing to keep that
A brother's
safe,
secrets
willing,
entrusted
and
to you.
yeah, exactly. So, so at that meeting, we had a couple interesting conversations, and then from there, I had spoke to a couple of brothers over the weekend in a I would say quasi-pastoral context, but we didn't go to meetings for that. We just did that at the house. So
Freemasonry, as you said, outside of a meeting.
exactly,
Imagine that.
Yep.
Free.
live, live and face to face.
Nice.
So
Very cool.
That's what I do.
All right. Well, we'll delve back into some of that in a little bit.
All right.
Yeah, want to talk about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Conversation in lodge. That's like unheard of.
All right. Yeah, imagine. God, what are they thinking?
What are they thinking?
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with more with Brian Mattocks.
Woohoo.
Why choose George J. Grove & Sons for your next home improvement project? At George J. Grove & Sons, we've built our reputation on quality and trust for more than 50 years. For planning to materials to installation, George J. Grove promises a home improvement experience second to none. Whether your goal is reducing energy costs, decreasing maintenance, updating curb appeal, or simply increasing the value of your home, the George J. Grove team will recommend and provide solutions that stand the test of time. Call 717-393-0859 for an estimate or visit us at georgejgrove.com.
And we're back. I always love that. You know, you guys have no idea what goes on during our breaks. It's amazing.
It's better
stuff.
that way.
It really is better. We keep our dues cards that way. But before we begin our interview tonight, I wanted to give a shout out to two listeners, both of whom are from my lodge, but for very special reasons. One, Brother William A. Northey, past master, made a donation to the R. Scott Hoover jar here. He made a donation. He said, I don't want to sign up for Patreon, but I want to help you out.
Contribute.
So
There.
he said, from time to time, I'm just going to throw some money at you. I said, you're not the first, but that's a good idea.
Anybody else who would like to do that?
Yeah, just come by and throw money at us.
throw
We're
money.
good with that.
You know, I'll get up on the table. I don't care. I'm not proud.
And then our good buddy Rick Kellinger, who was one of the quote-unquote new guys, if you'll think back to the pandemic episodes, came to town to visit our lodge. Actually, not visit. He's a member still. Lives in South Carolina now. Came back to visit family, and he made a contribution to the Larry Merris cough syrup cabinet.
There is no cabinet.
Well, there is no cabinet, but we have a very generous donation that we will, when Larry's back, we'll make sure we make good use of. So,
Very good.
excellent.
All right.
So, Brian.
Hey,
Hey.
how we doing?
Doing great. So I'm not going to pull a Larry Merris and read 6 pages of your bio, but
I don't think it's that long.
oh, you forget I have access to Grandview.
Oh,
I know everything about you.
wah, wah.
Exactly.
Ruh-roh.
So you're a 2-time past master of your lodge, which is, as you said, Cassia Mount Horeb?
Yep, 273 in glorious, wonderful Ardmore, Pennsylvania.
Ardmore. It's right off the train line, right?
Yeah, we're officially on the main line,
Okay.
as it were, which is an area that's most notable for the fact that a train ran through it.
Ooh.
Well,
Hence, they call it the main line.
exactly,
main line, right.
which I think is a diminishment of probably everyone that lives there, but it is the main line nonetheless. And so we are a nice suburban lodge, which has got sidewalks and walk-ups and cool things like that.
Is the lodge walkable from the train station?
Yes.
Cool.
but that's really just a matter of ambition. Anything's walkable.
Well, okay. Can I do it? Can Larry do it?
Larry cannot.
Now I have to make evaluations on fitness, and I'm not going to do that.
Measure of ambition.
So, talk a little bit more about what you shared with us before.
Yeah.
And let's just jump into the deep end.
So-
here. Jack, do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a longer perspective, I met you at a district meeting that we were presenting at, and you and I had a conversation, and we started, and you mentioned this concept of, shall we call it, conversation happening during a lodge meeting.
In a lodge meeting.
And they had I know the paramedics came, they revived me. Tell us about how that got started, and how does it, I mean, stupid question, how does it feel? I mean,
So my first year in the East, I had made a series of mistakes, which is probably not uncommon, right?
As all good worshipful masters do.
Exactly. And so by the end of it, I realized that me trying to find speakers that represented various contingencies contingents within the lodge was a mistake. Like, we don't need more of the same. What we need is to come together as a group. And so when I took a round 2 in the East, it was a redo a couple years later. And I said, well, why don't we just stop having speakers come in? There's no point in it. There was no, that's not to say that.
You mean they won't hear about George Washington again?
Right. Well, that's not to say that there's not a point in having a speaker, but without the most important part,
George.
which is like
We do like
the conversation at the end. Like, how are you going to turn that experience into information that guys can go home with and change their behavior with? Then it's pointless. So my second round in the East, every single meeting we did a conversation, and we started very simply. In the beginning, the first conversation that we had, we called off from labor, so that wasn't officially in the minutes because we didn't want to make sure. We wanted to make sure that the conversation we had was
Free.
honest and open, and we got to practice the calling off from labor part
There's
of the
an
ritual.
idea.
And so we started our conversation with, what is. We literally went through the degrees, like what does it mean to be prepared in the preparing room? How does that inform your participation in the meetings itself? It was I like it. So it was amazing and really, really fun because more than anything, when I joined the craft, I wanted to meet other people that could challenge me and help me learn new stuff. And so I had to build it basically in my lodge, and these conversations were the way to do that. So we just had a conversation earlier this year about setting objectives and goals and how do you do that. We broke up into small teams in our lodge and we help each other out. We did the kinds of things you would expect in maybe a corporate kind of setting, but with folks that actually want to be there. So
That kind of reminds me of the Jim Stevens Lodge Business Brief.
Yeah.
There was
right.
something very similar to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Suggesting that very thing.
which is now rolling into this membership
Thingy.
committee that I'm on with Steve Shimp, and we're all trying to do the same thing, and chapters doing the same thing. They're doing SMART goals. So all of that, we're feeling a much more corporate sort of overlay right now, whether it's intentional or not, I don't know.
So when you suggested that, did you get any pushback?
I had the top hat, so it wasn't a suggestion.
Okay, well,
That a boy.
There you go.
Read the Hyman reason. I get
love
it.
So
Okay.
did you get any pushback?
No. In fact, the pushback that I got has actually been fairly recent. And it was framed in a negative context, but I honestly believe it's super positive. And one of the members said, look, if we're going to do another AA meeting, I'm not coming.
Okay.
And I said,
Wow.
well, I guess you and I joined a different fraternity because I didn't come here perfect. And so the conversations that we've been having have largely been like for example, this year the focus has significantly been on how do you tell a brother that maybe they're exceeded their compass, or how do you tell somebody that their behavior isn't helping them achieve their objectives, which is a super difficult conversation to have any day of the week. Mm-hmm. And if you've never taught a guy how to have that conversation, then you can't expect him to do it. So a lot of the way we do teaching is this collaborative conversational model where the right answers are going to be evident and the group's going to discover it. And you don't really have to go in there and beat everyone with the audit stick or whatever and tell them like you have to do it, right? Because they're going to come to that conclusion when they hear somebody else in the room come up with a great idea. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really come out of the discussion process. I had one of the brothers just a couple months ago when we had a conversation. It was a real honest conversation. He's like, dude, Freemasonry saved my life. And it was because we had the conversations in the room and we made ourselves available outside of the room. And that's what this is capable of. It's real easy when you look at like some of the ritual to get mired into the words or the work. But if you do this stuff that the words or the work illuminate, we literally as a craft are changing lives.
Yeah, and we don't even understand that we are. I mean, I've heard that said here also, and you just kind of like, wow. I mean, it takes you back. But one of the things that happens though in Freemasonry is every lodge has a different DNA, right? Every lodge has a different set of people, has a different building, has a different meeting night, has different circumstances, different finances. Not every lodge could employ this, but a lot could.
So I want to push back on that because every lodge is made of people, and people are all the same. And I understand cultures form. I understand that there are past masters that have huge domineering personalities, and all sorts of stuff that comes from that. But the experience of being people is pretty consistent. And so if you have an environment that's toxic to conversation, you have to ask yourself, is that what you want? Is that in the best interest of your lodge? And if it's not, how do you change it?
Well, and you said I had the hat, so you could drive it, right?
Yeah. What I didn't tell you is we've continued it since.
Right.
And you were last master in
2 years ago,
there you go.
3 years ago.
But it had to get started.
It had to get started.
It had to get that ball rolling at some level. People had to get comfortable with the idea of it. And
I've since done it at a couple other. I did it at a chapter meeting. I did it in other lodges that have asked me to come out and like, can you facilitate a conversation on the preparing room or this or that or the other thing, and that's been really rewarding. But to your point, it's not something that a lot of lodges continue. And as a facilitator of these conversations, it's very, very difficult because you have to provide room for the answers. You can't provide the answers, even though you might have them. Mm-hmm. And so when you do this and you do it well, there's place for everyone to participate. There's room for everyone in the meeting to say stuff without them having to be right or without it having to be evaluated. And so the very first time I did this, we had almost the entirety of the discussion was on ground rules. And the ground rules were no refuting what somebody just said, no reiterating what somebody else just said. You have to have your own opinion. You have to bring something of value to the table. You can't change the topic. I mean, there's lots of little things that we had to do along the way. But now we have this sort of organizational culture that allows for conversations. And that doesn't mean guys don't disagree. It just means that we're able to do so in a framework that allows us to move the conversation forward. Mm-hmm. And then I I do what I do, which is I do the wrap up at the end of every one of these where I cherry pick the best parts of like the contributions and give it back to the guys. And then what's really interesting is because I've been facilitating the conversations for as long as I have, I'll have guys come back and say, remember what you said, 3 meetings ago, or remember we talked about 3 meetings ago. And I'll be like, well, yeah, I mean, but I've facilitated several of these. And and they'll say, yeah, this was I took it to my house, or I took it to my church and talked to another guy about it, or what have you. And it's been really amazing, just as the outcomes it creates.
So have you been the facilitator of all of these, or have the masters coming behind you facilitated them?
So I've been facilitating.
Okay.
I've had a couple other lodges that have taken the ball and ran with it, but the staying power is tough to find.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy.
Well, you've got to have certain skills to be able to facilitate
I'm a man with a
conversation
certain
like that.
special set of skills.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. No, but I mean, seriously. I mean, part of my job,
there is a lost person. So
part of my job before I retired was this, and it is not easy to implement those ground rules you talked about while respecting individuals who are talking. And I mean, it's great that the masters that have come behind you have continued this, but I think it would be very difficult for master followed by master followed by master followed by master to necessarily expect those skills to be able to facilitate these kinds of conversations, at least initially.
And that's what I'm talking about, having different, every lodge
Yes,
having different
yes.
DNA. You don't,
Yeah.
and that DNA changes.
Yeah.
It morphs over time when you get different masters in, because 4 years from now, you're ancient history, right? And you've got 2 years of doing this, which is, I think, awesome. But if there's a 2 year gap, then 2 years from now, you're back to square one.
I'm not sure. The conversations themselves have influenced outside of the meetings. I mean, we're doing this at our stated meeting.
So logistically, how does it work? You said you call off from labor and you have a conversation.
Yep.
So you open, you pay the bills, you do the flag, all that stuff, and then you just like randomly call off, or
we go through the standard program stuff, right? Pay the bills, read the minutes, all that kind of thing, and then
You read your minutes?
you know,
we might not.
That's a poke.
Next month, but
so and it's great. Like, we do literally call off, and what my lodge room is big enough that we can't have a conversation in it. It's too big. So we literally get the chairs and form a circle in the south, or in the west, in front of the officers in the west, because that's the most people with natural chairs where they're sitting. Mm-hmm. And we just form a semicircle of chairs around the guys in the west. Literally everybody gets up, and it's part of the tiling of that experience, if you can imagine, is literally getting these old wooden chairs, like from a pile, these like old church chairs from a pile, and handing them to, everyone. Here's your chair. Here's your seat in the room. Now, it's not part of the ritual. We didn't expect it to become part of the ritual, but it's something we do, and it's part of how we, all sit together on the level.
This is fascinating.
I love it.
It's just like...
But I'm looking, and I don't mean to be negative about this, because I think it can be done everywhere. I'm looking at the cast of characters in my lodge right now.
Yeah, keep it in mind.
And it doesn't. I just don't see it like forming up, and not to insult anybody, because that's totally not what I mean. I love all those guys, but that type of conversation, I have trouble envisioning it.
Well, and I think the key here, though, is the masters who have followed you have been willing to turn over the quote-unquote program time.
Yeah, they do. And
to having these conversations.
And we didn't start with, like, how do you tell the brother he's, his behavior is garbage. Right. We started with, let's talk about what the gavel means to you. We started with stuff that was direct ritual, like, here's the working tools. I'm a huge working tools guy, which I imagine we'll talk about a little bit later. But
that will be session 2.
We started with the tools, and we started with the ritual, because it was easy and obvious territory. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, a lot of guys that show up for the stated may not be strong ritualists. They may have they may only come for the stated meetings. And if you do that, the only ritual you learn how to do is to pay bills.
Open and close and pay bills.
Exactly.
And
so
ice cream afterwards.
with bourbon, apparently.
No, not in Pennsylvania. No, that doesn't happen. No.
That was special
No,
bourbon
never,
in a different
never.
jurisdiction.
Just rumored.
So, it took a little while to build the trust level to a sufficient amount to have the harder conversations.
Oh, for sure.
But the harder conversations are where the fun stuff is. And it's where you're starting to have guys get uncomfortable with, like, can you please stop making this so much like an AA meeting? Or can you please stop making this, but I tell
That's
folks
when you bring in George.
Right.
You bring in George Washington, you have it like that meeting, and then you go back to
You're reset here.
Yeah.
Well, and you got to do that from time to time. You got to have the quizzo, Masonic moment. But, start with the easy stuff, the stuff that everyone has to go through. You rehash the lexicon, you go over. So many guys don't understand the preparing room at all. Like, they have no idea what that is, what it's about, what it means. We had a conversation, one of the earlier ones, in probably the third or fourth month, where what does it mean to not bring anything offensive or defensive into the preparing room? And
into the lodge.
And then into the lodge by proxy, right? And guys are like, yeah, it means don't bring weapons and knives. And I'm like,
okay.
What about perspectives?
What about emotions? Yeah.
What about your desire to be right? And all of a sudden,
That's why you're prepared a certain way.
the whole thing,
There's
exactly.
brains all over the walls.
Exactly.
It's just horrible.
And it changed everything. And once guys understood that was the nature of the conversations we were willing to have as a group,
That's when it opens
It got
up.
better.
Yeah. That's when it gets more ephemeral at that point.
And so, to your point, like you're probably not going to start with that,
Right.
But you can start relatively easy with, what does it mean? What does it mean when you're wearing the apron? Do you ever take it off? Ooh, what does it mean to wear the EA apron? Because I wear the EA apron several times a week. These are perspectives that you sit through, and again, that's part of the conversation, sort of longer term, about what does it mean to be a Mason and how does that work. But when you're willing to have the conversations and you start, you have to have the fortitude to continue. The further you trace it, the easier it'll become, kind of thing. And so we've done that, right? We're now a lodge that can talk to each other. It's not perfect. It's not always the best.
It's much more intimate, though.
Yeah.
You begin to know each other in a whole different way than how we know each other in my lodge.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely concur.
And that leads. I'm sorry. You good?
What?
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 So that actually gets back to a previous question I asked. So the willingness to participate from people who come to your lodge, whether it be the 80-year-old that's been there for 62 years. No, he couldn't have been. He could have been there for 79, or he could be 79 in there for that long.
They said there would be no math.
That's right. There was no math. Anyway, so
Geometry.
the older guy that's been there forever and the new guy that's been there for 3 meetings, have you seen equal or at least some level of engagement from all extremes of that continuum?
I was super focused in the beginning on making sure that everyone spoke at least once.
Good.
I'm less concerned about that now. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, it was making sure that everyone had a voice and that their voice was conceptually validated, right? Like, I appreciate your feedback. I'm glad that's, I'm glad you've had that experience or what have you. Now we do have some guys that tend to sit out. We have some guys that tend to invest. And I've decided to not over manage that as much as I can. Sort of from a facilitator perspective, it's difficult because you want to. The most interesting perspectives are often the guys that don't speak.
I was going to say, how do you keep the guy that feels compelled to speak all the time?
That would be me, by the way. Just so you know.
Versus the guy
literally
who,
or figuratively, right?
Yeah.
It's like he is like E.F. Hutton. When he speaks, everybody's like, "What?"
So you have to, as a facilitator, make sure that you find ways to engage. Mm-hmm. One of the most, just a quick aside from this. So the conversation we had in the lodge a couple months ago or years ago, I don't know. It's all the same. Was the premise of the conversation was, what is the opposite of the gavel? Right, the gavel is a subtractive concept. What is the opposite? How do you know when you need to find new stuff to add to your behavior set or what have you? And how do you identify what the opposite of that removal process is, and how do you engage it? And one of the guys who is outspoken and super, vociferous about all sorts of extra stuff, came up with this, like, oh yeah, the opposite of the gavel is silence. And it was instantly profound and instantly re-baseline the room. And so you can't, as a facilitator, as somebody who's trying to manage these conversations, you can't let that stuff go. You've got
it's active subtraction.
You've got, I mean, and this is where, and now we want to get into the conversation about the gavel. And that's what this does, right? That's why conversations are the best way to pursue, I think, the craft writ large. But when it comes to that as a facilitator,
told you you'd be a good guest.
I'm loving this. Keep going.
You just need to make sure that you provide room and space for those folks that may be, as a facilitator, right? You have your own biases, you have your own things, and you go, I don't want that guy talking. Or I don't think
there's a past master in every lodge we're thinking
exactly
of right now.
I don't think he has anything to say,
Or
and
two
you
of
have
the
to
three.
you have to call on them and ask them a question in a very specific way to surface what they really think versus the rhetoric they're used to spitting. And so, but that's all just facilitator technique stuff, and you'll get that in your lodge as you develop it.
What's the amount of members that show up to your stated meetings for the participation?
It's consistent. It's about 30. We're having probably 2 and 3 and 4 guests now coming in, guys from different jurisdictions that want to see how the conversations
take the train.
are run.
I was going to say, what night do you meet? What night do you meet? Because you might have a couple more.
I can take the train for sure.
The Masonic Light podcast tour.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Seriously, what night do you meet?
So we're the first Thursday of the month.
Oh my God,
first Thursday. I think that's an open night.
I think that's an open
It's
night.
rehearsal night here, but
that's okay.
It's okay.
But yeah, we've had conversations every meeting probably for the last 3 years now, and they get really interesting and they get really honest, and if you're willing to allow it, they can really teach you a lot.
They can, and they would love to, but they don't know how. They don't know how to start that conversation, and you don't know how to ask them to start that conversation. So, to create the environment that can happen in is perfect. I mean, that's really what we should be doing.
The thing that amazes me about this is you've got a guy who, within his lodge, is doing this, not waiting for permission
or a program
direction
to come down
from the Grand
Lodge,
Lodge,
right?
And you're doing this. And that's so important.
I was raised when I don't know about your charges in the 3rd degree, but when I was raised, they told me I had the right and obligation to do what I thought was best in the interest of Freemasonry.
Yeah.
And it really agitated some past masters the following weekend when I was raised that I showed up and started cleaning the building. They were like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, well, you made me a master mason, and I started
have all the rights and privileges.
Exactly, and obligations implicit, and so I started cleaning. So, I'd like to believe that Masons that come behind me will emulate behaviors like that.
Few,
but I'm surprised to find that it's not an expectation.
Well, and maybe it was once, and maybe we lost that. And maybe we're getting it back.
Hell yeah.
I think we're at maybe one of the coolest points in Masonic history, where we're turning away from that giant bowling league that we have been for 50 years. And we're coming around again to what we should be, and that is a place where men can learn and grow in a safe environment, and they can take these lessons back to their own lodges, back to their church, back to their, Kiwanis group or whatever, and make everything better, right? That's I
And the
think
fact
we're
that
in
Freemasonry is providing that opportunity.
no one will ever recognize
Right.
that's what's happening.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I remember
Because
a conversation
in real history, nobody talks about Freemasonry.
Right. I mean, I remember a conversation I had with quote unquote the new guys that came from my lodge during the pandemic. They were this group. And when things kind of opened back up and we started back, we were sitting around one night. The tradition in my lodge is after rehearsal, we always go down to the local pub and continue the fellowship. And I remember saying to them, look, for the last year and a half, you all have taken charge of this lodge. Don't let it go. Don't let it go. And they haven't. Mm-hmm. And this kind of stuff, I'm hoping, I'm gonna go back and tell them all, listen to this. You all need to listen to this stuff, because while there are some of them from our master down to our wardens, there's some in some of the lower chairs now. And I'm like, you all need to think about this.
Think like this.
Think like this.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just not about it, but think.
Well, because indirectly or directly, we all talk about this.
Right.
Whether
small groups.
Yeah, in little small groups. We talk about this kind of thing that we need to do to make us really better people. But how do we actually do that within our lodge? Mm-hmm. And I think you've given us a wonderful thing.
All right.
And,
Why don't we take a quick break?
Absolutely.
So we can get our
my brain needs to be
brain
picked up
back
off of the
inside
floor
the
and
skull.
We'll have a
talk about something completely inane and ridiculous.
Exactly. So we'll be right back.
As far back as the mid-1800s, records exist describing the pre-meeting tradition of brethren smoking cigars during and after gatherings. To this day, the practice of smoking cigars remains very much alive in many lodges. This custom is considered a time for brethren to relax, exchange ideas, and enjoy the simplicity and fellowship that is the very essence of our brotherhood. This is what Hiram Solomon Cigars is all about. Our starting principles are to bring Masonic brethren together in the harmony of a good cigar. Pull up a chair, sit back, light up any of our premium cigars, and enjoy the history. Hiram Solomon Cigars can be found at fine cigar retailers. For a complete list, visit HiramandSolomonCigars.com or check them out on social media to find out when they'll be at a live event near you. Hiram Solomon Cigars is pleased to be the official cigar of the Masonic Light Podcast.
And we're back.
Oh my God,
Man, we just had a great episode while you all
we
were
recorded
away.
3 episodes while no one was listening.
Yeah. Was that Hiram Solomon, or was that who was that we just heard from?
Yes.
Okay. So welcome back. Josh, at the beginning of that last episode that you all didn't hear, you said something very profound about what you thought.
Oh, I was just mentioning that what he's describing is what we have discussed in the past, and what I thought I was joining was, a group of men who get together, they discuss whatever the topic is, they know each other, they relate, they share ideas, they share experience, and that's kind of what it sounds like he's talking about. And
Exactly.
And the sad part about it is every one of us around this table tonight have sat as masters of our lodge.
This is what we want.
This is what we wanted, but we weren't able to get it that way.
And we failed at giving it when we were masters.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Josh tried. I know Josh tried.
Yeah, Josh tried. So, Brian, you said something just a moment ago. Please say it again.
Which thing?
Which thing? The thing I said. You got to say
the thing about the thing.
2 episodes ago.
No pressure.
Wait, here's the deer and the headlights
Which
all at
thing,
once.
Tim?
Yeah,
Give us a
exactly.
hint.
Tim, help me.
You may have to hit the pause button and do an edit.
You were mentioning about how you were asking if Stephanie was Jack's wife.
Yes, there you go.
Oh yeah,
The member
So-
profile.
Oh, that thing.
That thing.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes.
Now I
Sorry.
remember.
So the
Oh my God.
at our lodge we were running into issues like how are we going? Okay, so if we're going to move forward as a lodge, like now that we've started to cement a community that can talk to each other and have good conversations, what does that mean? Well, it means that we're going to need to get together as a lodge and start doing work, not just like the work on ourselves, which was, maybe years 1 through 3, but now as a lodge, we need to work. So in order to do that, we formed committees like all organizations do. And in our member engagement committee fairly recently, we started a conversation where it became very clear that a good majority of our members don't even know who is in each other's lives. I didn't know the names of the significant others for some of the members in my lodge, and I said, and I think that's a travesty. That I have people in my lodge that I'm supposed to have these honest conversations with, and I have no idea who they are. I have folks that might be giving me the single best and most professional advice I could ever get. But if I've never asked them where they work, I wouldn't know their advice is coming from a place of value. I would just think it's an old dude telling me what to do. So it became very clear that we need to provide a way for members to get to know each other. So our lodge moving forward, yeah, right. Our lodge moving forward is going to
Dare
Oh,
you
start.
think like that?
Tim just exploded all over the wall. It's really gross.
There's brains everywhere. It's awful. And so I'm not going to tell the guy in the East what to do, but one of the recommendations we made as a committee was to, can we start featuring our members in our meetings, right? Can we start to talk about, people's backgrounds, or can you stand up and tell me where you work, or can you tell me what the hardest thing you did last week was? I mean, you guys do a great thing here with the introductions and the meetings where you talk about what was your Masonic stuff like, and you talked about the meetings you went to, which is great, but what crisis did you face? That would be even more compelling.
That's kind of our
That's later.
Junto program. We have the
Well,
Junto questions.
A couple aspects of that, like Brian, I commend you for making a change like that in your lodge, which has been very successful. And you get two aspects of it, and you see in blue lodges, you see, and I'm not saying it's every lodge, but you'll see lodges where members will join, they'll go through the degrees, and next thing you know, it's like they come to a meeting, they come to a next meeting, and they go, so I come here, they read minutes, they vote bills, and then that's it. Why am I coming? And they don't say anything to anybody, but they're thinking that, and then they never come around again. Or you have people that come to you, like friends of you or coworkers that go, like, what's Masonry about? Like, what do you do? And you just sit there and reflect about your meeting. And you go, well, it's men making good men better. I mean,
Yeah.
Love that one.
We pay bills.
so the whole analogy of what you're doing, we do in small groups. Like after meetings, we go out to maybe an establishment to have a couple of refreshments, whether it's Blue Lodge, whether it's at their chapter or if it's at their consistory meeting or something like that. We do have these educational talks, but they're in such small groups from different areas, it's not making an impact in the right way for our organization. We're doing it for what's best for us, but not what's best for our lodges.
I think you're right. And I think one of the things that happens in any group of any people, right, regardless of whether or not it's Freemasonry or out in the world, you tend to form cliques where you find folks that agree with what you have to say. And that's the gift of Freemasonry, actually, is finding folks that don't agree with what you have to say, where you can still shake a guy's hand and call him brother and have a honest-to-goodness disagreement at the end of the conversation and say, your worldview doesn't match with my experience, but I'm still going to back that play, whatever that might be. That's the gift of the craft, I think, when it comes down to it. But that whole small clique conversations is something that a lot of organizations do. Like, this is a normal behavior what is important as master of your lodge and as as being a master mason is I think you need to craft the experiences you want and develop what that really means. And a big part of that for me, and a big part of the reason why I went on this quest at all, was because I wanted guys who could tell me and call me out on my BS. I wanted to build an organization of men that I trusted to tell me I was wrong, which sounds awful, but I really needed that, and I still do.
We all do. We just don't know that we do.
Yeah.
Or aren't willing to admit that we do.
Yeah.
So as much as I hate to,
Yeah.
because this is going so well,
Yeah.
I'm going to transition us a little bit.
Yeah. I'm with you, Tim. I'm with you.
So when you actually, before you came in tonight,
Preach it, brother.
you actually, a couple weeks ago, you shipped to me to share with these guys. And I once I opened the box and realized what it was, I kind of put it back because I wanted to experience this in real time with these guys. You sent us a little package. You want to talk about that little package you sent to us?
Sure. So as is the custom, I guess, I think it's throughout the state in general, is the Worshipful Master will provide a gift to the members on their Masonic birthday. And my first year in the East, I provided the standard, pens and hats or whatever. But on round 2, again, with all of the mistakes I made in round 1, I said, well, this time it's going to count. And so I thought to myself, what can I give to the members that would help them really take that good men better concept and turn it into action? And having recently listened to, at that time, I guess this is a couple of years ago now, a Academy of Masonic Knowledge presenter talk about, I think it was Tabitha Cicero, talk about tarot cards. I was able to kind of internalize what they were for. Tarot cards I didn't understand at all. And in fact, whatever this is that I've sent out isn't really tarot cards. It's just ways of thinking that we've already been exposed to. It's a physical artifact. But from there, I realized that the idea of tarot cards was designed to help guys take different perspectives, which for me was what Freemasonry is all about. I mean, they literally give you an apron for each different perspective. Like, how much more on point can you get? So,
I thought it was just folded different.
So you can hold your tools better. So, when I kind of tried to figure out how can I give something to the brothers in my lodge who I love and respect a great deal, I came up with this Masonic tarot card deck, which it's 21 cards that anybody who's been through the craft can look through it, and without any additional education than what the lexicon that's been conveyed through the ritual itself, without any additional stuff, they can go, yeah, I know what that means. I have an understanding of what that perspective is. I can probably solve problems in my life using the tools I've been given. So it's to be quite literal, it's a deck of cards that I designed, each with a Masonic symbol on them.
Not really cards, though.
Technically not cards.
Yeah,
They're not paper.
Because
They're the size of playing cards.
Right, but it's a 3D printed polymer stuff, plastic, yes. I guess, or of some sort.
Would you like to know the exact material?
Sure.
There you go. Talk to us.
No, but it looks like tiny little, and there'll be a picture of it on our Facebook page if you want to go there.
Well, and I've got now 21, however many of these there are. How many are in here?
21.
Oh, ooh, man. That's good.
A number. Wink, wink.
So 21 for the next 21 weeks.
Yeah.
We're going to post one of these.
Oh, geez.
On both our Instagram and Facebook page.
21 weeks. Do you know how long that is, Tim?
That's like to the end of the year.
Half a freaking year.
That's right, to the end of the year.
Half a freaking year.
And we'll engage folks on this.
Okay.
But
the over-under on when Tim fails to do this is...
Brian, continue. Talk to us about the cards.
So each one of them is a tool that that you would understand as a regular Freemason, at least in Pennsylvania. They're basic perspectives, and they're transparent. So to the point, they are made of plastic, and you can see through them, which means you can combine them together, which means you can take a card like the Square and combine it with a card like the East or the Worshipful Master and go, how can you as Worshipful Master act on the Square? The idea is to just take a lot of the symbolism. I mean, if you've been through the East as a past master in the lodge, you understand what it means. But to take these symbols and combine them together in a way that really illuminates challenges or perspectives in your life.
I'm flabbergasted. This is amazing. I really.
Tony, this whole episode is just causing my brain.
Yeah. So definitely go on the Facebook page or Instagram or whatever social media we're on this.
We're going to put it on all of them,
and see what this looks like, because it's just absolutely compelling in its simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, it's just stick drawings of these symbols, but they're built in such a way that they can be overlaid so that two symbols can mean one thing, or can superimpose on each other a whole new level of thought about that thing. And I just arbitrarily laid 3 at random out on the table in front of me, and there's the 24-inch gauge, the moon, and the volume of Sacred Law. And my mind is racing about how I can, in my mind and heart, combine and understand those 3 things together, knowing that I left 18 other things in the box, right? But those 3 speak to me about a particular thing, and that's the purpose of this, and it's brilliant. And you are definitely going to need to make more of these. And whatever they sold for in the past, that you did not charge enough, because these are just stunning. And
Thank you.
And you really this is really I don't even know how to conclude this sentence, so I'm just going to stop talking.
You know,
go ahead, please go.
When I started to make them, it became clear to me very quickly that that we don't spend a lot of time as Freemasons talking about the symbols we've been given. You know, in some lodges, they'll give a little group of working tools at the end of your degree in this little, clamshell, blah, blah, blah. And it's great, right? And I don't mean to dismiss the gift. But we don't provide instructions on its use. And I think that's the peril, right? This is the gift of the craft is profound. The gift of the experience of the degrees is profound. What we don't do then is create on-ramps to appreciate the gift. And that's what this is.
Yeah, I can see it. They're difficult to describe because they're so ephemeral. I mean, you talk about ephemera in antique collecting, and you're talking about paper for the most part. And this is more ephemeral than ephemera because it's mostly air. I mean, when you think about it, it's mostly nothing.
Yeah.
But the thing that is there is particularly compelling, and it's just
the thing I love
brilliant.
about art in general is that it's the space between things where the value is created.
Right. The negative. Yeah.
I'm, the whole thing of combining these things. I mean, I'm not sure what mathematical equation occurs to figure out how many combinations you can create with 21 cards, but that whole concept just is
And so to be practical about it, because my biggest thing about the craft, I think that's the most important thing, to be honest, is the practical application of it, right? Mm-hmm. And so to be practical about it, you imagine you're facing a problem in your life, whatever it is, the a-hole at work that's treating you poorly, mm-hmm. or whatever. We don't tell folks okay, so break out your tools. Well, so I gave guys a bunch of tools. They're physical objects, so you remember, break out your tools. It's the "What would Jesus do" bracelet. I mean, it's
right. Exactly.
This isn't stuff you've already been given, and that's the point. Like, I didn't invent anything. All I did was make it physical to help you use the brain that you've been given and the ritual you've been. You had 15 guys say that you were worthy enough to go through this ritual, and they spent the time to give you this knowledge. And so some guys might need on-ramps to use it, and that's okay. And that's what this is. This is an on-ramp. It's a tarot deck that's designed to help act as on-ramps to the knowledge you've been given in the degrees.
Why call it a tarot deck? Because it isn't what most people think about. That would be a tarot deck with the.
That's an awesome question.
Ship of Fools and the Heart Red Queen and all that kind of nonsense. What this
I don't
this
know.
Is something completely different than that, but
it was inspired by it.
Okay.
It came as a result of listening to a conversation about tarot, so I was inspired by that at the time. You're exactly right. It doesn't have the major arcana or the minor arcana or any of the things you would expect in a traditional tarot deck, but I think it pays homage to why the tarot deck even existed at all.
Requires you to think,
right? Which is like, here
when that happens, I think.
And that was the thing, about the presentation I heard at the Academy, which was like, this guy wanted to solve problems and he needed to step through perspective and didn't know how to do it, so he made papers to help himself do that. Mm-hmm. That sounds awesome. Let me do it.
Yeah.
I'll do the same thing. And so, just because the tarot deck since that historical period of time has solidified into this architectural edifice doesn't mean this isn't a tarot deck.
Right. No, and I didn't mean to imply that it wasn't. It's just, and the other aspect of this, and to be completely sexist as I normally am, men are...
Any given Tuesday.
Yeah. Men are primarily visual, right? Yeah. I mean, as a rule, men respond. So I just laid out 3 tools on a blue field in front of me, and I looked at them for a while, and I put them away. I put the box away, I folded up the blue field, put it all together, pushed it away. I still have that image burned in my vision right now. I can still see it. So I will carry it with me when I leave here as an intact image. And that's something additional to just having them and laying them on top of each other and stuff, is that you create that synaptic reference that it stays.
Absolutely.
It becomes a part of you.
And that goes back to parts of the human experience which are sublingual, right? The men as hunters had to look out on the field. Part of the reason the men are visual. Why are men visual? Why is this a thing? Mm-hmm. Is because we had to look out on the field to figure out which of the animals we were going to go kill to bring back to the tribe. That's in our DNA. Mm-hmm. This isn't just like I prefer visual stuff. This is, I need to use my eyes and, my brain to evaluate where somebody's going to be in space and time, to then shoot the arrow or throw the spear in exactly the right way to solve the problem. And so of course, this is visual, because I'm a product of that sort of biological history.
Right.
But there are people in the world that don't need this kind of thing. They can switch through perspectives, very easily. But for me,
Really?
I'm a potato.
Yeah, like Turin.
Really?
Yeah, there are people. There are those people. Yeah, you can see beyond the seeing.
Yeah.
But very cool. All right, I think because this is
we're gonna have a 3-hour episode.
This is going to be a long episode, so I think let's take a quick break. I am going to say, just to you've made 100 sets of these.
Yes.
You are going to need to make more, because I suspect that people will want to see this and have it.
This may be your retirement.
So
gig here.
no. I mean, what was it? Paul, who said, if you ever want to go broke, create a Masonic publication.
Right, exactly.
Michael Paul.
Well, this is not a publication, though.
But this is a thing, but it's still a thing. So
I
you're
think
not
we
gonna,
all struggle.
You
with
could become 100 air.
Yeah, right.
if you play this right. So, this set is for a Mason who really understands the spirituality of this. This is something that a Mason should have, and I'm just going to say that right now. And if you don't make a shit ton of these, you're going to miss the boat. So, just what I'm saying. Okay, so let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk about something else.
Yeah. All right. We'll be right back.
Boom.
Looking for a way to show your Masonic pride and affiliation, but also want to have a relaxed look? Two Pillars Apparel is a Masonic-owned company that incorporates sports apparel with Freemasonry. Check out their current lines from Blue Lodge, as well as the appendant bodies York and Scottish Rite. Two Pillars Apparel is always adding new designs and items. Check in today to get a baseball or hockey jersey, or one of their new Scottish Rite lapel pins or hoodies. Two Pillars Apparel works for lodge social functions or going to the game. Visit them at twopillarsapparel.com. That's TWO, pillarsapparel.com.
Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we'll talk about all the applications and implications of the Masonic symbols and how to use them in your everyday life. Hi, I'm Brian. I'm a Freemason out of Pennsylvania, and I thought I should put together some thoughts and collections. I'm keeping them all collected together under the title A Mason's Work. And here we're going to talk about the practical application of the symbolism of Freemasonry as it relates to your journey as an individual to become the best version of yourself you can be. With that in mind, there's going to be discussion about, the Masonic tools. There's going to be discussion about Masonry writ large, Freemasonry, operative Masonry, and different ritual sort of contexts in different jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions have different tools. We're going to try and put those things all in context so that you can use them in your journey to become a Master Mason, or at the very least exemplify the virtues of a Master Mason to the best of your ability. With that in mind, take a look around. The site is yours. YouTube, give it a shot. Thanks. Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at amasonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
You have just listened to something we want to talk next about with our guest, Brian Mattocks, which is the podcast called A Mason's Work. The one you just listened to is called The Missing Tool of the Entered Apprentice Degree.
I'm going to argue with you.
And I think we just identified a new monthly add-on to our podcast.
We can have a drop.
I think we can have a drop in there.
We're going to take a drop.
Help
That's a big
support our good friend Brian Mattocks, but also, again, the purpose is to generate conversation.
What?
And dialogue.
Yeah.
So talk to us about
that podcast.
So I alluded to it earlier. Actually, one of the things that we talked about early in when I was Worshipful Master and the conversation we facilitated was, what was the opposite of the gavel?
Mm-hmm.
The gavel's objective is to remove vices and superfluidities, if you will, from your behaviors. But there's not a ton of how do you determine when to add stuff? when do you figure out that the way you communicate is garbage and you need to learn new skills? That's not a subtractive element. That's an additive element. That's I need to build myself as an individual. And so we don't talk about it in through any of the ritual in a meaningful way. We don't say, hey, listen, there's going to be times when the stone that you're building or the stone you're adding to the temple is going to need to add some things. Like, it's not part of the conversation. I think it's probably implied by absentia to, essentially help eliminate the potential argument we're going to get into in just a second.
We're not going to.
But
we're going long. We're not going to get into an argument.
Let's do it.
But the idea here is
that's for the Patreons.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll do a point counterpoint with the Patreons.
And then later it's the blood feud, and 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Damn him.
The Thunderdome. So I think when you look at a lot of this stuff, the very first thing you do if you're a rational person is you have a ton of questions. And
Right.
if you're really smart, the first thing you want to do is go talk to people that you can trust, i.e. your lodge.
Yep.
Yeah.
To figure out, okay, well, wait a minute. What does it mean? Like, I don't know what to remove, but I can tell you right now, I'm horrible at this.
And I had the experience in my lodge coming after my one-day wonder class, and I wanted to talk about stuff. I mean, I was so juiced on like all this stuff. I'm like, what? And it turned into a PTA meeting. It was like
green beans for everyone.
I was like, what? Oh my gosh. So this podcast you started some time ago. You're not currently recording, right?
So I started it as a limited run, just to kind of get some of these concepts out there that I wanted to have conversations about, because I'm super into the idea of a practical Freemasonry, a Freemasonry I can use to improve the quality of my day. And when I got to the point where I was like, okay, well, I've gone through the tools, I've gone through the stuff. There's room at the table for more episodes. One of the episodes that I'm really interested in exploring is how do the Masonic tools, as provided in the Blue Lodge degrees, apply in the appendant bodies? How can you evaluate the 23rd degree against the 3 basic degrees you've already gotten? And so there's tons of.
I think that's a great challenge, because I think we get lost in that
Yeah.
in that degree structure.
Yeah.
There's tons of room.
Bodies.
Yeah, for all of that. And so,
but it all has to come back to this.
yeah, exactly. It has to
some level.
it has to be like, okay, in the 14th degree, this is how they exemplify the plumb, the level, the square, the compasses, the 24-inch gauge, the common gavel, whatever. This is the trowel in motion. I think that's the part that I think from a fraternal perspective we tend to miss, is that the Blue Lodge degrees as provided or as delivered are really then by the appendant bodies exemplified. And we don't talk about that. We don't talk about like, oh yeah, by the way, here's the 4th degree and this is what it represents in terms of your first 3. Mm-hmm. And I think we're missing the ball in many ways by not carrying that continuity.
Well, they
back.
kind of become the appendant bodies become historical application, not tactical application, right?
And
not
that's
how to carry it forward in IRL, right? Not that, but like how was it exemplified in this particular circumstance historically? Yeah.
I think there's money in that
But
that exploration.
So the podcast itself is available on podcast aggregators all up and down the river and stuff. And it is, again, it's called
A Mason's Work.
A Mason's Work. It's great stuff. It's just a couple minutes. You'll hear some drops from that show and our segment breaks and stuff, just to keep you attuned to what this is really supposed to be about. And great work. It's good stuff.
Thank you.
Tim, you got anything else?
Man, I can continue this
Well,
conversation.
I mean,
like
there's
forever.
nothing says the road doesn't go back and forth.
Right.
We can have you back.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I think we should. So
No, Brian, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
And,
much for having me.
This, I mean, my brain hurts. It has been, it's exploded at least 3 times during this show. So
You think the lodge audits would have done it, but no.
Well, yeah, exactly. I survived.
This episode did it.
I survived 64 lodge audits. This is the one that did it. So.
And maybe that's why. Maybe it's the 64 lodge audits previous to this that caused your brain to be weak to explode.
Maybe that was it. and you and I didn't even get to talk about how we met.
Yeah, exactly.
In the midst of creating training for these guys. So anyway, so this has been a great episode. I'd love to come back and revisit this. The tarot cards, whatever we're going to call these, are amazing. Just the conversation has been great tonight. So let's talk about what we've got coming up Masonically in the next couple of weeks. So I will begin to give you all an Oh, you know what?
Oh, wait.
We need to do something.
We have to play.
Do it, Jack.
It's time for Copious Dues. And tonight we have with us Brian, who is, I don't know, it's a tough one with Brian. I'm not sure how many pendant bodies
we didn't really get to a whole lot of that stuff
we didn't.
tonight,
It's going to be
did
a tough guess, but the game
There
is...
was no sussing.
There was no sussing
No
done.
sussing.
Yes, we couldn't suss it out. So we are going to have to just take a scientific wild-ass guess on how much you pay every year for Copious Dues. So, Ricky, you've been awfully quiet tonight.
Thanks.
What do you think he pays every year in Copious Dues?
Well, inflation does make a difference here, so I'm going to go with $709.
Okay.
$709. A good, solid, even number. 709. Tim, what do you think our guest Brian pays every year in Copious Dues?
So I wrote this down earlier, and I'm going to stick with it.
Okay.
$650.
$650. Josh.
$628.43.
And I, your host, I think you're all high. In a manner of speaking.
Yes, we are.
I think that number is $480. So, to recap, Tim, tell us.
Jack Harley, $480. Josh said $628.43. I said $650. And Ricky took the high road and selected $709. That's a lot. It's more than $1 a month.
So, Brian, tell us in your own words how much you spend every year in Copious Dues.
$500 on the button.
Without going over,
Oh my gosh, Jack
I
Harley.
think you're all high. Thank you very much.
You're right.
Thank you
You're
very
all
much. All right.
Put your name on the board.
Finally.
Get your name on the board again.
Do I do that? No, I'm
Is
not.
this your first time on the board?
No, I think I won one before.
Okay.
But it doesn't.
Cheating
really-
Larry won a couple times.
Tim, Larry, yeah. Larry cheats.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, all right. Very good. So let's take
right,
it
let's
on
go.
home. What do we have coming up?
What do you got coming up, Ricky Martini? I ask you.
Oh, well, Friday night, after the
Yeah,
our
don't talk about
episode.
stuff that's going to happen after the episode.
Yes, we'll have the our Scottish Rite meeting with installation of officers. Aaron Council meets coming up this
Already
week.
happened.
Yep.
Will have already happened.
Oh yeah. Then you got Roy Arch degree at New Bloomfield. We have our spring reunion, and that's about it for me.
All right, Jack Harley.
I will be trampling out to Johnstown for the quarterly communication of the Grand Holy Royal Arch Chapter of Pennsylvania.
When does that occur?
That happens. Actually, we'll have another recording session before then.
Yeah, but what's the date? You can pre-promote.
When is it? It's June
7th and
something,
8th?
I think. Yeah, something like that. Second Saturday in June.
Yep.
But other than that, just I've been pulled apart for a while, so I need to get my wheels back under me and get back to my Blue Lodge and and do my ordinary.
Use these cards with your new candidates.
Dude,
and,
I'm just, yeah, I can't. It hurts my head.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but that's, pretty
Josh.
Down low.
Josh.
I don't have anything coming up until after next episode. All my stuff is end of the month and beginning of the month. So, other than the episode, I got the episode, of course.
You do the heavy lifting, Josh.
So before the next episode drops, you do have a grotto meeting that you can come to.
Is that before?
Just before.
Ah. Apparently, I have a grotto meeting just before the next episode.
As do we all.
Yeah. Brian, how about you? What you got coming up?
So I have regular, what may not surprise you, I have regular dinners with a couple brothers where we meet on the square and we have chatty type conversations. But my next formal Masonic function, probably a district visitation of some sort, but I haven't gotten the dates yet. My next stated meeting is the first Thursday of the month. But we do fellowship every single week, like every week, and it's awesome. I don't always make it to every week, but I will be there next Tuesday at my lodge, trying to cheer on brothers that need cheering on and helping folks that need the knowledge they need.
Cool.
Very cool.
Nice.
All right.
So
I've got, Ricky mentioned the Big Valley of Harrisburg is having our annual reunion on the 17th and 18th of May. Sorry about that. Cigar Lodge is meeting on the 19th at Cigars International. That's on Sunday at 2 p.m. Let's see. What else have we got? Harrisburg Council number 7 meets on the 20th. I'll skip a bunch of stuff because I do want to mention that on the 31st of May, the 1st of June, I will be attending the Grand Lodge Quarterly Communication in Erie, Pennsylvania. If anybody's going to be there, make sure you seek me out. If you'd like to do a little quick interview, we'd love to chat. And then mark your calendar for a couple of dates here. In September, on the 18th of September, it's a Wednesday night, District 3 will be hosting its Low Vale that you are all invited to. I believe you can go to the District 3 website, which is glpad3.org or net or com. One of those three. I can never remember that.
That's something.
Yeah. 2 of those will give you a virus.
Right.
One of those will work.
One of those will work. So whatever you feel luckiest with, go to that one.
Perfect.
You could probably go to the Eureka West Shore Lodge number 302 Facebook page and find a thing on that. Jack, you have something coming up?
Something very important that I forgot to mention.
Oh, yeah.
On May 19th, Sunday,
yes.
is Cigar Lodge is meeting at Cigars International.
Somebody just mentioned that.
Did somebody mention that?
I think somebody. Sure. It may be me.
Well, I just did. If maybe it was you. It was probably you because you're a cigar kind of guy.
Josh? What about the 22nd? That's after next episode, but before the next episode is released.
The 20. Oh yeah, on the 22nd of May, District 3 will host its annual Past Masters Dinner, in which one Jack Harley and one Josh Lamberton will be special guests there.
Not his real name.
Yeah. If you would, if you're interested in attending that and are a past master, if you get to me very quickly, I can add you to the guest list. You will have to pay. You guys don't, because I've already covered you all.
Aww.
But,
thank you, Tim.
You can contact me.
I'm
it's a great
big
night,
that night.
and it's really something that started several years ago, where all the past masters of the district get together. There's always a special guest. This year, the special guest, obviously, will be the Right Worshipful Grand Master, Larry A. Durr.
What?
And then afterwards, the afterglow is freaking amazing, because we bring lawn chairs, and we bring cigars, and we bring beverages, and Lord only knows when we leave. So it's a great night of fun with a bunch of PMs.
Must be amazing lawn chairs.
They're very good lawn chairs. All right. So Larry is not here tonight, but we will release the chickens. And we will... I just dropped one of my tarot cards.
Careful now.
Yeah. So we should simulate our brother Larry.
Oh, I don't think we can outdo the last episode. That was just ridiculous.
That was good. That was amazing. So, special thanks to
God, there it is.
Everett Lodge number 665 for hosting us. To all of our
Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
You know we've been doing this for 2 years.
Right. We still can't come up with new things.
7 planets. Right there.
Hey, Carol!
This is our second year.
Feel like she's at the front door.
Hey, Carol! There we go. Yeah, bring us something to drink. All right.
Come home, Larry. We miss you.
Come home, Larry. We need you back. All right. Good night, everyone.
Hey, Carol!
Good night.
Bye, everybody.